Hi, everyone, and welcome to Basics of Scanning and Beyond. And I bet you're wondering what the beyond is. Well, I decided that when you scan, there are a number of things that crop up that help you save your things. Just things the path will cross as to what you're scanning and what you're doing with your scan when you're done. So we're going to cover a lot of area tonight. We'll be covering scanning, resolution, DPI and PPI, pixel, file format, GIF, PNG, JPEG, Tiff, RGB, CMYK. So those are the things that we're going to cover. And I chose them. Those aren't everything that happens to you when you're scanning, but those are some of the ones that you just might need to know about when you are doing it. So where do we begin? We begin with scanners. There are a number of different types of scanners out there, and what you scan with depends on what product you want to end up with. The two that are on the screen right now are portable scanners or wand scanners. The ones that I'm familiar with are not very good resolution, but they do come in handy if you're going on a trip somewhere, if you're going to visit your family or friends and you want to scan something. You just whip these out and do a little scan when you're sitting at a table talking to your sister or your cousin. On the other hand, there are giant big scanners. This particular one is a book scanner. It scans from the top. They are not something that you would probably want in your house because they are rather big and they are expensive. This is another expensive scanner. This scans maps and blueprints. But the ones that you are probably going to want to look at are flatbed scanners. And this is an example of a flatbed scanner. This particular one, I believe, if you look at the top right here, usually they have a cover over this. This would indicate to me that this scanner probably has attachments for scanning slides and negatives. This is a document feed scanner. And this is a combo document feed and flatbed. And then we're back to another scanner. So there are choices out there, all kinds of choices depending on what you want. And I suggest going to this website, www.cnet.com. This website tells you pros and cons on scanners. They're very honest. They give you prices. They also compare prices. So it's a handy website to go into for not just scanners, but laptops, cameras, and a lot of other things. And that is on the pass out. So let's talk about some of the things that we're going into our beyond territory now. Handling, when you handle whatever it is that you're going to scan, you need to be careful how you handle it. You need to be gentle. You need to not touch it as much, just try to not touch it very much. This is an example of one that probably was in a family photograph and people passed it around. And if you look at it, you can see fingerprints all over. And it doesn't matter what setting I put it on, the fingerprints showed up anyway. This setting over here is a full color setting. This is a black and white setting, and this is a grayscale. And you can see that there's marks all over it. And this one is really pretty bad because there's this little shiny thing here. So be careful. And your scanner will not get rid of these for you. And you shouldn't even try to do it on a scanner because a scanner is for scanning. And if you want to try to fix it, you should have a Photoshop program that you can do some fixing in. Silver halide degradation. This is a problem, an issue that you might run into when you're scanning. When you look at a photograph and it's a paper photograph and it's shiny, that is the silver. The silver in that photograph is degrading. And if you look at this photograph, you'll notice right here on the dark, this is shiny. Up here in the hair, that's shiny. Keeping this in the environment, open to environment, is only going to make it worse. So you need to get a good scan of whatever it is and then put the photograph away. This problem is not an easy fix in any kind of a Photoshop program. But you can take your time and try to. But I must tell you from experience, it's hard to get rid of. The best you can do is scan what you have and put it away. Moire pattern. Now, I'm not sure if you've seen any Moire pattern or not. This is a photograph from a yearbook. This is the same photograph showing the Moire pattern. This is caused because of the paper that's used. You'll see a lot of this in newsprint, yearbooks, any kind of a cheap paper that was used with the screening process that was used to make it. Now, here's what you need to know about this. This is not an easy problem to fix. On your scanner, or on some scanners, there is a button that you can check called the de-screening button, and it will sort of fix this problem. But what it will do is it will blur the photograph. So you have a choice to leave it blurry or to keep the Moire pattern. You can try to fix it by going to a Photoshop program, either GIMP or Adobe Photoshop, with layers and blending, and try to do a fix that way. But you're probably going to end up using a blur tool, so you're still going to have the blur. Now, something that I think is exciting that I have just started to investigate is a program that's been around for quite a while. It's a mathematical formula. It's a fast Fourier transform. And the military uses it for their satellite photographs where they can correct things like this. I have watched some videos of one of my favorite websites, a website, How To Gurus, where they have a plugin that is the FFT plugin for Adobe. And they did a demonstration, and it was actually quite amazing. So I'm going to do some further investigation into this software. It's a filter. I think it's very exciting. GIMP also has one that is also a plugin. The problem with these plugins is that if you're using Adobe, you have to have the version that is the more expensive version. Now, let's talk about resolution. And I have to talk about DPI and PPI in order to talk about resolution, because most scanning manufacturers have put all of that into one lump verbiage. When you have your dialog box up on a scanner, it will say DPI or PPI, or it might say both. And that is actually your resolution. So when you see that, that is where the magic number of 300 is put. You don't want to have any resolution on a good photograph less than 300. Let's look at DPI though. What a DPI is actually is a dot per inch, and it is a printer resolution. It is how many dots of ink are coming out of the printer onto your paper. PPI is a pixel per inch, and it is how many pixels you have. So that was the resolution. Just remember 300. Whatever your scanner says, 300 is the one that you want to use. You may want to use more depending on whether you want to enlarge it. Then you would up it to another number. File extensions. It's very important to remember how file extensions work. Everything that you have on a computer that you save has a file extension. Some of them are compatible with each other and some of them are not. For instance, Microsoft Word has a file extension of .doc. PDF is a portable document format. Adobe Photoshop is PSD. A Tiff is a TIFF. Now, if I want to insert a PSD into a Microsoft Word document, I will not be able to do it. It will tell me they're not compatible. A document will take a TIFF or a JPEG or a PNG, but it will not take a PSD. You can only open Adobe Photoshop native formats in an Adobe product. And the same with GIMP. If you save a GIMP photograph with the native format, you will not be able to open it up in any other format. Sometimes Mac and Windows don't get along either with the extensions. So just remember, sometimes file extensions are not our friend. TIFF. TIFF is a file format. It's a tagged image file format. It was created in 1986 for archival purposes. For any image you scan, any journal page you scan, any letter you scan, they should be saved as TIFFs at no less than 300. They are not lossy, and you can edit a TIFF without losing anything. The downside of a TIFF is that they are a large format, but they are the one that you use for saving your images, for archiving them. That doesn't mean that you can't take a TIFF and change it into something else. It just means that the original image should be a TIFF. So I'm going to talk about 3 file formats that are used in conjunction with your TIFFs, or that you can change things to. The first one is a PNG, PNG. It is a portable network graphic. It was created in 1996. And you can change your TIFFs to PNGs if you want to. You will see a lot of PNGs online. They are compressed and they are lossless. They are also large. The neat thing about a PNG is that it holds a transparency. And that's why it's used a lot online. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. This is a photograph and another photograph on top of it that says PNG. If you'll notice, there's this white background on it. That's because this area has been saved as a JPEG. If it was saved as a PNG, it would look like this. You could see through to the background. That is what is really great about using a PNG for things that you want to display online. Now, a TIFF does this too, but it's harder to do. It's real easy to save an image as a PNG. GIF, pronounced like the peanut butter, is a graphic interchange format. It was created in 1987. It is a lossless image, but the color, there's 256 colors. I guess that's not a lot compared to the JPEG's color. The great thing about a GIF and why it is used online is because it can be animated. And hopefully when I click here, we'll see an animation. This is a GIF. This is sort of like claymation, but really not. It is created by frames, sort of a stop motion, but this is how a GIF is animated. It takes a long time to do this thing that lasts a couple of seconds. JPEG. JPEG is probably the one that you're more familiar with. It's a joint photographic expert group created in 1992. And it is not the one that you should be saving your archival images in. It is a lossy, compressed file. And what that means is every time you save it, parts of that image will disappear. And you'll eventually start seeing fuzzy edges on your JPEG. JPEGs are okay to use online. In fact, they're preferable to be used online on your Facebook or to send to somebody through the email. But they are not to be used for your initial archival image. Here's a JPEG. Here's a close-up of a JPEG. And if you look around, you'll see what happens to JPEGs. This is called a JPEG artifact. And you don't want that on your original archival copy. Here's an example of a photograph. One of them is a JPEG and one of them is a TIFF. And you can see that they're different. The colors are different. A close-up, if you'll notice, the edges around the face are starting to get fuzzy. This is the JPEG. It took me 5 saves to get from the TIFF image to the JPEG image before all the fuzziness started to show up. So it doesn't matter how high the resolution on a JPEG is. The danger in using a JPEG is that it will start losing things when you start saving it. RGB and CMYK. Now, you may be wondering, what does this got to do with scanning this color? We're going to talk about color. Sometime you might want to do something with the images that you're scanning. You might want to make a nice little flyer or an invite to a family reunion, and you work really, really hard on your computer and you get it to be perfect. And then you print it out and it doesn't look like what you have on your computer. That is because RGB is your computer. It is red, green, and blue, and it is the light. CMYK is the printer. Most of them have cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. They are made out of pigment. They are not going to match what you see on your computer. So you need to experiment with your computer or the printer to see if you can figure out how to get the colors to be how you want them. So just be aware that what you see on your monitor and you're going to print it, it's not always going to look like what you see. And this is the reason why. So you've got all of your things scanned, you've went through your photographs and you've scanned them and you've saved them as TIFFs because you know that's the right thing to do. And you've got diaries and letters that you scanned, little mementos of things. What are you going to do? What is your next step? You're going to back all of that stuff up. Back it up, back it up. And watch technology. Some things that we have stuff backed on is no longer a viable solution. So if you've got something on a CD, you probably need to get it off onto something else. Flash drives, they're okay, but they do corrupt. I have my images on a number of different things. I have more than one copy. This is an external hard drive. This is also an external hard drive. And there's always the cloud. So be aware of technology. Have more than one device that you've got things backed up on. But make sure that you are actually backing up. Now, I am going to do a actual scanning demonstration here. Maybe. Okay. So we're going to bring up a scanner, and the scanner that we are using tonight is an Epson V Series 600. It is one of their older scanners, but let's look at this. Maybe. try it again. Here we go. So this is a dialog box that comes up with the Epson scanner. And depending on what scanner you get, these dialog boxes may not be the same, but since we have certain things that we are doing, we're saving an S300, a Tiff, that's what you're looking for. This one, I have set it at the professional mode. And the document type is reflective or film. We're going to use the reflective. The scanner that I am using does scan film. I scan all of my scans as photos, not documents. And this is the bit color that I leave. I leave it alone. I don't mess with the bit color. And right here is the resolution, and you notice the little word DPI, but it's all about resolution. And this is how far down I can get to 12,800 on my resolution, but we're just going to stick with 300. I do not check any, and here's the de-screening I was talking about earlier, but I don't check any of these. Because as I said earlier, a scanner is a scanner. It's not a Photoshop program. So first thing I'm going to scan is a tintype. When you scan things, be very careful. The scanner is made out of glass. You don't want to scratch it. On the lid, there are the edges of where the glass meets the plastic. Most people would just line up their images or whatever it is they're scanning on that. But the problem is with archival information, a lot of times doing that on the edge crops off something that you want to see. So I have trained myself to look at there's machinery inside of this, and you can see it through the glass. And some of that machinery, which I don't know what it is, but some of it has straight edges. So I always line up whatever it is I'm scanning with what I can see through the glass. And I'm closing the lid, and hopefully we're scanning here now. We're going to preview. I'm going to pull that over, and there is my tintype. Something about tintypes you should know is that photographers usually cut the tintype themselves. Hence, we have the crooked lines. Occasionally, you can find one straight line, but sometimes you can't. You'll notice that my cursor, when I bring it over in this part, has this little cross. And so I am just going to drag a line. This is a marquee tool. It's the proper name. Could be a selection tool too. I can change this, changes to the arrow when I get over the lines or the little hand. So I go around my image. I do not go exactly up to the edges. We always leave a little bit around the edges so that someone who is viewing these images know that we didn't crop off whatever is there. You can, on this particular scanner, you can zoom. Some don't have that option. So we have zoomed on the image. You can get a closer look at it. I have found in scanning that when I have a tintypes seem to get really pretty dark as they age. And of course, that can be corrected in Adobe, but here is also a rotate. This rotates the image. These are the deselect tools over here. So now we're ready to scan. Let's move that out of the way. I'm going to hit the scan button, and it brings up another dialog box. This gives me the option of where I want to put my image. I can put it anywhere. If I had a folder made up, I could put it, I would choose other and then browse and try to find it. I am just going to put it in, for right now, I'm going to put it in my document. Here is where we are going to name it. Some versions, some scanners have a different way of naming this. So you need to probably read whatever instructions on how to name, but this is where you're going to put your name. Smith, and we're going to make a name up, Bertha, maybe. Maybe not. Well, I guess we're not going to name it. Anyway, so we are going to take our number down to 1. Some versions have more than 3 digits here. Here is your image format. Here are your selections. We are going to choose the Tiff. When I scan, I like to see the image after I have scanned. So I always check this open image folder after scanning. And I am going to hit the OK, and hopefully we're going to get a scan. And there it is. It popped up in my Windows Explorer over here. So I can look at it over here and see if there's anything that needs adjusting. And if there is, I can go back and scan it again or whatever. So that's why I always choose that. Now I'm going to scan a daguerreotype in a case, and I'm going to scan the case too. So I'm putting the case in the scanner. And the lid will not close on it. Don't press the lid down. So we're going to do another preview. There's my case. And I'm going to take I can move this, you notice. It doesn't quite fit, so I'm going to have to extend that. And then I'm going to scan it, and the number will automatically change to 2. And there's my case. Now I'm not done with this daguerreotype yet. I'm going to scan the inside of the case and the daguerreotype. Once again, the lid does not close, but we're not going to press it down. So we're going to preview it. Here is our daguerreotype. And I'm just going to move this over and get the inside cover of the case, scan it. It is number 3. There that is. And I won't do a preview on this. I'll just move this over and get the daguerreotype. and scan it. So there we have the case, the inside, and the daguerreotype. Now, I want to draw your attention to the name here. When I'm finished with this scanning, I want to make sure that these three images are together. When someone looks at them, they can see that they belong to each other. So what I am going to do is I'm going to go in here. I'm going to add an A, an A. I'm going to go over here, rename this. To B, rename this. To C. So now I have my daguerreotype is 2, 2, and 2, A, B, C. So they will be together. Now, I'm going to photograph something with the silver halide problem. It's really pretty shiny. It's flat, so I can close the lid, and I'm going to preview. Stretch it. Scan it, and I'm going to change this number to a 3 because I want this to still be in order, and say okay. And there we have that one, and you can see there's that silver problem around there. Now, when you're scanning, it's not only photographs that you're going to scan. I'm going to scan a letter for you here, and I want to show you a problem or an issue that sometimes happen and a little tip on how to fix it. So let's scan this, or let's preview this. So let's rotate this image. This is a letter. Sometimes, this is a really not too bad, but a lot of times, if you notice up here, there is a bleed through from the page that's on the other side. Sometimes this gets so bad that it's hard to read the writing that's in whatever it is, the journal or the letter that you're looking at. There is the little trick, and it's a really inexpensive trick. It is a piece of construction paper. In this case, it is a black construction paper. So I have put the black construction paper on it. And if you'll notice, you don't see that as much as you did before. It blocks the light from going through to the other page. Sometimes you can use a blue, but usually black or blue really work. So we're going to save it. And there we go. We got our letter, and we can set up an Excel spreadsheet and copy down what we see. If we see any names of value in that letter, we can copy it down to an Excel spreadsheet. Okay, I have one more thing to scan for you to show you how to solve another issue. So let's preview what I just put in here. It's another letter. I'll rotate this. If you notice, it's cut off because the letter is too big for the scanner. So this is the time when you would want to scan it in pieces and stitch it together. And the way you do that is you need to find on what you're scanning, you need to find a focal point. And I'm going to use this little piece that's missing as my focal point. I will move this over to the edges. And I will go from this point down about an inch, move it up here, and I will scan that area. So I'm scanning it. And there is number one. So then I go back over to my scanner and I move that paper up on the scanner. And do another preview. There's my point. I'm going to take this down to there. And I'm going to move this down here. And I will save that point. And what I do when I put this into any Photoshop program that stitches, what the program will do is take this area here and it will match them together. It will match those pixels together and stitch them. And the stitching programs, for the most part, are amazing. So there we have this, and it will take this area and put it together and match it. So I have one more thing to show you. Sometimes you might wonder about scanning and about how tedious it might be, which is why I do recommend some music and some earphones. But sometimes you just trip over things. You find bits of history in what you have scanned. This is a journal from a man by the name of J.E. Bowen. His name is John Edwin Bowen. He lived between 1822 and 1907. And John was a bit of a genealogist. In 1897, John took a trip. He got $100 out of his bank, and he took a trip through a number of states in New England searching for his ancestors. And this 26-page document is of his journey through that area. And it's an amazing piece of history. And this is one of the reasons why we scan. On the very last pages of this journey that he wrote about. For people that are looking for their own family, he left all these names of people that he made contact with after he got back. These are his relatives. He sent these people letters. He actually asked for money because he's going to publish a book of the family. So these are the people and their addresses. And it's just a great piece of history. And this isn't even my family. But when I was transcribing all of this, and by the way, he's not the best writer in the world, I felt it was very nice because I could go with him from place to place and see the people that he saw and talk to the people that he talked to. So I was able to go on John's journey with him. So these are the kind of things that give us a reason to make our scanning not quite so tedious, because this is a way for us to touch history. So I do encourage everybody, to save their history. And that is just about, that's it. And I'm open for questions.